Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and you come to me? But Jesus answered him, Let it be so now, for it is proper for us in this way to fulfill all righteousness. Then he consented. And when Jesus had been baptized, just as he came up from the water, suddenly the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, This is my Son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased.
Acts chapter 10, verses 34 through 38. Then Peter began to speak to them. I truly understand that God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. You know the message he sent to the people of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all. That message spread throughout Judea, beginning in Galilee, after the baptism that John announced, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power, how he went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Amaris, I've been thinking about the word beloved and what it means to me. It says beloved is one who is loved, dearly loved, or dear to the heart. I'm wondering how many of us can truly say we feel dearly loved. I must admit, I struggle with these words myself sometimes. And to be honest, I've been feeling a great deal of words opposite to beloved lately. There's clearly a division in our nation that's been stirring up feelings in me of anger and intolerance. Those words that are opposite of beloved, despised, detested, disliked, they've been resonating with me lately. I wonder what message the baptism of Christ can bring to someone like myself into our divided nation. Amaris, one thing I've noticed about you when we discuss issues of race is that you have a certain calmness and peace about you. You don't seem to harbor feelings of contempt, or at least you don't show it. Why is that? How do you keep loving people even if they don't love you?
I do wrestle with feelings of contempt. In particular, I work against being angry and dismissive, and I definitely don't feel a sense of peace. Maybe what you see is the mask I've crafted over the years to make other people comfortable. I don't want to be cast as the angry black woman or the one who always brings up race. I'm comfortable talking about race, but there are a lot of people that I just don't believe in. I don't think many white people will ever hear or believe the injustices faced by people of color. They're nice enough folks, but they've lived in their privilege too long. I feel if I address an issue of race, then they'll see me as one of those stereotypes, and I have no interest in changing their hearts and minds if I'm the only one driving the conversation. I want the systems changed. I want no remnants of white supremacy in our schools, our courthouses, our places of business, our police departments, and our healthcare systems. But unjust systems can't survive without people holding them up. So I have to work hard not to be dismissive of people. Besides, I can't dismissively clump white people together and claim to love them at the same time. How does that work when I'm a part of a really white congregation? If I believe that we are all beloved, then none of us are cast aside lost causes. I'm so glad that God doesn't think of me that way, so I have to resist thinking of others that way. I have to believe that God can grow us all, and that belief requires tending, but it makes room for love. I deal with anger too, but I haven't found much use for it regarding issues of race. It can dangerously take over my spirit and be a distraction from the fight for justice. Keep your eyes on the prize, right? I try not to step into anger because I can't risk it morphing into rage. I don't feel God there, and it's hard for me to make my way back to any sort of love. Besides, I don't think my anger stirs conviction in anyone's heart, and it doesn't spur one positive action on their part. Most likely, those with whom I'm angry won't ever even know. Some months back, my coworker callously stated, "Some guy got shot," when explaining why traffic may be an issue in Charlotte. The way she spoke of Keith Lamont Scott's death made me angry. I didn't need to know the particulars of the shooting to know that people were hurting and a life was taken. That matters. I felt the same anger at an interracial dialogue I attended with Willard. A white man there argued for the need for facts, an apparent prerequisite for compassion at the loss of Oscar Grant's life. He needed this despite the pain expressed by the people of color in the room. And when I saw teachers on Facebook, black and white, support an adult who dumped a passive student from her desk and slung her across the floor, I was angry, but I couldn't stay there. Race was at play in all of those situations. James Baldwin was right. To be a Negro in this country and relatively conscious is to be in a rage all of the time. At its best, though, anger keeps me in the fight for justice. Tina, what makes you angry?
I think my anger comes from the fact that I grew up in racism. It was all around me, in my family, among my circle of friends. I heard racist jokes growing up, and sadly, I'm sure I participated in some of them. I'm ashamed to say this, Amaris, but I really need to get it out. I heard folks around me use the N-word, and I said that word myself. But I was young and didn't know any better. I was filled with hatred and anger, and a lot of it was at myself, but some of it wasn't. I learned to hate, and I need to remind myself that if we can learn to hate, we can also learn to love. There is sometimes a lot of anger at my family. Over the holidays, we had to steer clear of politics and religion and find other things to discuss. We all love each other, but we don't love each other's politics. There was one holiday I recall where my sister and I had it out, and that didn't end too well. She thought I was accusing her of being a racist. And maybe I was, I don't know. It gets really complicated with my family. They've been telling us in the news not to discuss these things in mixed company. It's proper etiquette, I suppose, but it also feels like a lot of us are trying too hard to pretend something's not there. And that is our privilege as whites. We can live in a world where we can choose to ignore the problem of racism. But I'm kind of tired of pretending. Look where that's gotten us. We are filled with so much hatred. It's like we've created these realities that are so separate from one another that we can't see where the other one's coming from. When we do talk about it, it's rarely with an open mind, and usually it doesn't end too well. And maybe some of my anger is a diversion. It's easier for me to point the finger at all the other white folks out there who support racist politicians and their racist policies. Or those who say they don't see racism or color. And it's easy to get distracted these days because so many feel empowered to openly express their racism. But this distraction keeps me from seeing my own sins of omission. I don't have to think about what I'm not doing. I can say, well, I'm one of the good white people. I'm conscious of racism. I vote for the right politicians. I belong to the progressive church. What else is there for me to do? But is that enough? Amaris, what's it like for you and your family when it comes to race?
We mostly talk about survival and loving ourselves. We're not typically at odds about the existence of racism or even how it shows up. I think we're all on the same page with that one. But I remember being given rules and advice that was meant to help me survive white people. Even as an adult, my father advised me to watch out for those white folks on the job. He told me about how he trained white men who were later promoted above him. He wanted me to be aware of white people who would feel entitled to my help, but would never acknowledge that their success was due in part to my support. I appreciated his advice because I was certain I encountered something similar early in my career. I had to decide, though, how to respond. How do I continue to be a part of the team without being taken advantage of? How do I take people as individuals without being blind to everyday white supremacy? And this next one continues to be hard. How do I love my white brothers and sisters while loving and affirming myself? My father wanted me to live freely, but he didn't want me to be naive. That balance is what I hope to help my nieces develop in their lives. I like that they grew up with friends of different races, but I wanted them to be safe. We couldn't protect them, though, from the white parents who commented about the decline in the neighborhood due to black people moving in, or the ones who insisted that the playdates happened at their homes. And we can't protect them from the systemic and institutional racism that they'll face throughout their lives. That's why it is important that they love themselves fully, brown skin and all. I remember the anxiety I felt when they were young and they passed over dark-skinned dolls, choosing the lighter ones with straight hair. But they're in college now, and they're embracing their natural hair, claiming their history, and calling out prejudice and misuses of power. I'm pretty proud of them. You probably can tell. And they still have white friends. They're working the balance.
You know, college was a time of change for me too. I was separated from that world I'd grown up in, and I slowly began to open my eyes to the injustices of racism. One year, I spent the summer in Chapel Hill, and I had a roommate named Tasha who was African American. I don't know how she put up with me. I was there that summer with students from historically black colleges and universities across North Carolina. And I was so full of ignorance about racism and discrimination. I recall late night discussions or arguments about racism and I would say, all people are prejudiced, not just white people. It kind of reminds me of the people today saying that all lives matter. Some of those conversations were helpful, but I think that what really changed me were the relationships that I built that summer. Mainly with Tasha, who was my roommate. She was very open about her faith as a Christian, and I cannot tell you how many times she prayed for me. She'd write verses down for me and leave them in places she knew I would see them. She did all of these things, even though she knew I wasn't really into religion and that I was kind of racist. I didn't love myself too much back then, and I was sure God didn't love me either. I didn't think I deserved to be loved, because somewhere along the way, I thought I had to be good in order to be loved.
And I think that's what it always comes back to, love. In the Acts passage, Peter said, God shows no partiality, but in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. We're not called to be partial, to have requirements that must be met before we love each other, because God doesn't. There's no earning God's love. It's already there. That's our model for each other. But we are also called to do what is right. Love is our metric for determining what is right. It is not just an abstract idea. You should be able to point love out.
Yes.
In the same way that we would not reach for a yardstick to measure the amount of sugar called for in a recipe, we shouldn't look solely to how we feel to measure love. Our actions reveal the degree to which we are loving each other. Claiming to love people of all races without joining in the fight for racial justice doesn't measure up.
Yes.
If I'm pursuing the heart of God, then I can't show partiality. I can't approach white people with distrust and suspicion. I can't reserve love for those with whom I agree. But still, it is not unreasonable to expect black and white people to be informed, present, and active in the resistance to white supremacy. What do you think about that passage from Acts?
When I hear that passage, it is a struggle for me to believe it's true, especially when I think about racism. When someone deliberately hurts another person, does God still love them? Or when someone ignores the injustices in society so long as they can live in comfort, is God impartial? Surely God's love is big enough for all of us. But if we do not know love, then do we know God? It's sort of a paradox. I guess we are loved in spite of ourselves, and that love comes to us in the most unexpected places sometimes. I know it said God loves us in spite of our shortcomings, but in my heart, I don't always feel that way. I was baptized when I was 8 years old in the Southern Baptist tradition, which was by immersion. But I was 8 years old. I think I kind of got some things mixed up. They said I was saved, or at least that's what I heard, and Jesus would wash away my sins. For some reason, I thought that meant I should never sin again. Not sure where I got that from, but it kind of messed me up for a while. I've been through a lot since then. Some of my troubles, actually a lot, have been of my own making. But when I look back over the difficult times, I can always see that God was loving me, even though I couldn't love myself. What was it like for you when you were baptized?
I was baptized twice. Once when I was 9 and again when I was 19. I remember feeling so loved at my first baptism. It was my day. I got a new dress, which was purple with green flowers and a lace collar. And and we ran into one of my mother's friends later that day, and she greeted me with, "I heard you got baptized today." I beamed. I felt special, loved. But when I was baptized later, I felt accomplished, grateful to finally be fully accepted into my new church. My second baptism was with a church that believed new disciples must prove themselves broken and deeply convicted before they could become a part of the body of Christ. It took them a long time to believe that I was sincere in my faith, mostly because I couldn't fast and pray the gay away. I tried, but I never got there. I could refrain from dating, but I couldn't hate who I was. Each baptism had elements of what I believe baptism is supposed to be about. The first one had all the love, though I believe our baptism should be marked by more than a new purple dress. The second one had all the expectation, but lacked openness and welcome. We are indeed beloved as God created us, and that love calls us to love and fight for one another.
That reminds me of a book I've been reading by Henry Nouwen called Life of the Beloved. He says that even though we feel compelled to listen to the voice inside and out that says we are not worthy, when we keep listening attentively to the voice calling us the beloved, it becomes possible to live our brokenness, not as a confirmation of our fear that we are worthless, but as an opportunity to purify and deepen the blessing that rests upon us. I think you and Nouwen are onto something, Amaris. Anger, judgment, harsh words, they're pointless, especially if we can't embrace our own feelings of guilt and worthlessness. And besides, aren't we all broken, more or less? If we believe we are beloved children of God, racism and hatred will never be an option for us. If we live in our own brokenness, we can love in our brokenness and love others in their brokenness too. You know, Jesus didn't perform one miracle until after the baptism. Loving others in their brokenness requires action. Those of us who are white must stand up and be present. For too long, we have sat in our comfort and taken advantage of our power. Well, where has that gotten us? We are angrier than ever, feeling worthless and broken and guilty for our inaction. But so many of us don't know what to do. We don't want to cause rifts in our family or in the workplace. We want to do something, but we don't know what to do. What can we do?
We look to God. We look to love. and we look to each other. We talk to each other, listen to each other, stand with each other, and seek each other out. We are beloved, we are called, and we are empowered. Amen.